I'm Elena, and I'm thrilled to have you join me today. If you've been following along, you've mastered the basics, so now it's time to elevate your English with more nuanced and sophisticated language. Today, we're diving into a session designed to help you sound more natural, expressive, and confident in a variety of situations. We'll move beyond simple greetings and phrases to explore the rich details that make your English truly shine. So, get ready to challenge yourself and take that next step toward fluency. Let's begin. Hello again, and welcome to this advanced English learning experience. Today, we are going to go beyond the basics and focus on the subtleties of real world English. The key to speaking more like a native is not just knowing more words, but knowing how to use them with precision and confidence in context. We'll start with how to articulate your thoughts and routines in a more sophisticated way. For instance, instead of simple thoughts like, I need to brush my teeth, try internal monologues that are more complex. You might think to yourself, I should probably get a head start on that proposal, or I hope I don't overlook any crucial details in my presentation. Another example might be, I need to strategize how to approach this difficult conversation with my boss, or I wonder if I've considered all the variables in this new project. When faced with a problem, a more advanced internal thought might be, I'll have to approach this from a different angle to find a solution. This practice of thinking in full, complex sentences trains your brain to formulate advanced ideas directly in English. Let's upgrade how you talk about your daily routines. Instead of just saying, I wake up at 7 o'clock, you could say, I'm an early riser and usually start my day at 7 a.m. Or, I tend to grab a quick bite before diving into my work emails. These phrases demonstrate a deeper understanding of verb choices and idiomatic expressions. For a more detailed routine, you could say, I like to get a workout in before the kids wake up. Then I spend about an hour getting organized for the day. For practice, think about a complicated task you need to do today. How would you describe it? You might say, I need to tackle a daunting pile of paperwork. Or, I have to make a few vital phone calls this afternoon. A more specific example might be, my priority for the day is to finalize the Q3 budget and present it to the team by 3 p.m. You could also use phrases like, I'm going to carve out some time this afternoon to focus on the report, or I've set aside a few hours to dedicate to strategic planning. This is how language becomes a powerful tool, not just a habit. Now let's refine our speaking practice with more articulate sentences. Repeat after me. I'm hoping to get ahead of my schedule today. Or, I have a feeling this week is going to be incredibly productive. Let's try a couple more. Say, I'm looking forward to a long and much-needed break this weekend. And I'm determined to make some significant progress on this project before the deadline. For something with a bit more complexity, try, we've finally ironed out the last few details of the contract, so we're ready to proceed. Practicing these longer, more descriptive sentences helps you build confidence in expressing complex ideas. It's not about big, fancy words. It's about using the right words for the right situation. As you go through your day, let's upgrade our small talk and greetings. Instead of just, how are you? Try more nuanced questions like, how have you been holding up? Or, what have you been up to lately? If you run into a colleague you haven't seen in a while, you could say, it's great to see you again. I hope you've been well. You could also try, it's been a while. How is everything on your end? Or in a more formal setting, I trust everything is going well with your team. For an informal chat with a neighbor, you might say, morning, how are you finding this weather? Or, good to see you, have a good one. Practicing these helps you sound more natural and engaged in conversation. Let's talk about the important skill of listening. At this level, it's about more than just hearing words. It's about catching the nuances, the tone, the intent, and the subtle meaning behind the words. Native speakers often use reductions like wanna for want to or gonna for going to. You've probably heard this before. Now try to listen for more subtle things like irony or sarcasm. For example, if someone says, oh, that's just perfect, after their phone breaks, you know they mean the exact opposite. Another example could be if a colleague says, that's a bold choice about a new idea. Depending on their tone, it could be a genuine compliment or a subtle critique. If they say it with a slightly raised eyebrow and a long pause, they likely mean the idea is questionable. Regular exposure to movies, podcasts, and interviews will help you pick up on these cues and improve your listening comprehension. Another great way to practice is to describe things in a more detailed, elegant way. Instead of saying, the table is brown, you might say, the old wooden table has a rich, dark finish. Or, the room is bathed in warm, natural light. This kind of descriptive language elevates your speaking from functional to beautiful. Try this now. Look around and describe something you see using 3 descriptive adjectives. For example, the old leather-bound book is sitting on the elegant mahogany desk. For a person, you might say, she has a radiant smile and a very calm demeanor. For a city, you could say, the bustling city streets were lined with towering historical buildings. For a piece of furniture, try, the sleek modern chair is both functional and aesthetically pleasing. To become fluent, you need to build advanced language habits. One habit is to dedicate a few minutes each day to writing your thoughts in a journal using new, complex vocabulary. For example, I'm feeling quite optimistic about the new project. Or, I'm a bit apprehensive about the upcoming deadline. This helps you solidify new words and phrases in your mind. Also, try reading articles or books on subjects you are passionate about and make a conscious effort to use 3 new words from your reading in a conversation or a written sentence. For example, if you read the word meticulous, try using it to describe a friend's work. Sarah is so meticulous with her research. This active use of language is crucial for long-term retention. Try using a language learning app to track your new words and put them into flashcards so you can review them regularly. Now, let's talk about expressing complex emotions. Instead of just, I'm happy, you can say, I'm absolutely ecstatic about the good news. Or instead of, I'm sad, you might say, I'm feeling a bit down in the dumps today. Other expressions include, I'm utterly livid, instead of angry, and I'm apprehensive, instead of nervous. You can also say, I'm relieved that the presentation is finally over, or I'm perplexed by his sudden change of mind. Other excellent words include overwhelmed, elated, melancholy, and disheartened. Using these more precise words shows a higher level of fluency and emotional intelligence. Let's do a practice. Someone asks, how are you doing today? You reply, I'm feeling quite energized, thanks. I had a very productive morning. Or, I'm a little stressed, to be honest. This week has been quite demanding. You might also say, I'm a bit disheartened by the results, but I'm not giving up. Let's refine how we talk about our schedules and future plans. Instead of, I'll go to the store, you could say, I need to run to the store to pick up a few things. For future plans, use phrases like, I'm planning to catch up with a friend, or I've been meaning to check out that new museum. You can also use modal verbs to express different levels of certainty. I might attend the conference, or I'll most likely be there. For an action you're certain about, you might say, I am definitely going to finish this report by Friday. For a possibility, you could say, I may be able to make it to the party if my meeting ends on time. When talking about a longer-term plan, you could say, we're in the process of planning a trip to Italy next year. These phrases make your speech more precise and natural. Asking questions is a key skill, and at an advanced level, it's about asking more thoughtful questions that spark conversation. Instead of just, what do you do? You might ask, what's the most challenging part of your job? Or, how did you get into that field? These open-ended questions show genuine interest and lead to more engaging conversations. Let's practice a short dialogue. One person says, I'm a project manager at a tech company. You ask, oh, that sounds fascinating. What kind of projects do you typically work on? They reply, we're currently developing a new app to improve productivity. And you follow up with, that's interesting. What was the catalyst for that project? For a personal topic, you might ask, what inspired you to get into that hobby? Instead of just, do you have any hobbies? You could also ask, what's your take on the latest news in your field? Now, let's talk about expressing more subtle likes and dislikes. Instead of I like coffee, you could say, I'm quite fond of a good cup of coffee, or I'm a big coffee enthusiast. For dislikes, instead of I don't like loud music, you could say, I have a strong aversion to loud noises. Try these. I really enjoy intellectual conversations, or I can't stand inefficiency. You can also say, I'm a huge fan of classic films, or I'm not particularly keen on reality TV. For a role play, you ask a new friend, what are your thoughts on modern art? They say, I'm on the fence about it, to be honest. What about you? You reply, I find it rather thought-provoking, though it's not always my cup of tea. This shows you can hold your own in a debate. Let's now dive into some of the most challenging but rewarding aspects of advanced English: phrasal verbs and conditionals. First, phrasal verbs. These are verbs combined with a preposition or adverb, and their meaning is often different from the individual words. For example, get over doesn't mean to literally climb over something. It means to recover from an illness or a difficult situation. You might say, or it took me a few weeks to get over that cold, or I'm trying to get over a difficult breakup. Another example is put up with, which means to tolerate something unpleasant. I can't put up with his constant complaining anymore. Practice these by creating your own sentences. Try using call off to mean cancel, bring up to mean introduce a topic, and look forward to express excitement about a future event. Next, let's look at conditional sentences. These are essential for expressing hypothetical situations. The zero conditional is for facts. If you heat ice, it melts. The first conditional is for a real possibility in the future. If it rains, we will stay inside. The second conditional is for an imaginary or unlikely situation. If I won the lottery, I would buy a house. And the third conditional is for something that didn't happen in the past. If I had known you were coming, I would have baked a cake. Try practicing each of these out loud. For example, if I had more time, I would learn another language. Or, if the alarm goes off, the security team is notified. Let's also talk about making polite and professional requests. Instead of, "Can you help me?" you could say, "Would you mind lending me a hand with this?" Or, "I was wondering if you could assist me with this, please." If someone asks for a favor, you can respond with more than just yes. You could say, "Certainly, I'd be happy to help," or "I'd be glad to." If you have to say no, do it politely. "I'm afraid I can't at the moment, but I can assist you later." Or, "That's not going to be possible, I'm sorry." For a more formal request, you could say, "Would it be too much trouble to ask for a moment of your time?" These expressions are gentle and respectful, and people respond well to them. When describing things, use more advanced phrases than there is and there are. For instance, instead of "there is a lot of traffic," you could say, "The traffic is quite congested today." Or, "There are several key components to this project." A more active way of describing this might be, "This project hinges on several key components." For a different example, instead of "there is a new building," you could say, "A new skyscraper now dominates the city's skyline." This type of language sounds more academic and polished. For practice, describe your current location using advanced language. The room is meticulously organized with several books neatly arranged on the shelf. You could also use words like "the landscape is dotted with ancient trees," or "the atmosphere of the cafe is vibrant and welcoming." Now let's move on to the art of giving directions. At an advanced level, this is about being clear and using a wide range of phrases. Instead of just "turn left," you might say, "make a left at the next intersection," or "it's located directly across from the bank." You could also say, "You'll find it tucked away behind the library." For a more complex set of directions, you could say, "Follow this road until you reach a large roundabout, then take the third exit. The office building will be on your left, just past the park. You'll need to go to the second floor and take the escalator from there." These specific details give your listener a much better sense of location. Let's upgrade our small talk about the weather. Instead of just "it's sunny," you could say, "The weather is absolutely glorious today, isn't it?" Or, "It's quite a dreary day, unfortunately." For more descriptive weather, you could say, "It's sweltering outside today. I can barely stand the heat." Or, "There's a brisk wind blowing, so you might want to bring a jacket." Other idioms include "It's raining cats and dogs" for heavy rain, or "It's a scorcher today" for a very hot day. For a dialogue, you say, "It looks like it's going to clear up later." A friend might respond, "I hope so." "I'm desperate to get out of the house." This adds personality and depth to the conversation. Now let's cover health and well-being. Instead of "I have a headache," you could say, "I'm feeling a bit under the weather." Or, "I have a pounding headache." For more complex situations, "I'm exhausted from working all night." Or, "I'm feeling quite fatigued after a long day." Other useful idioms include, "I'm feeling a little out of sorts," which means you don't feel quite right. Or, "I think I've caught a bug," to mean you have a minor illness. Practice these. "I have a splitting headache." "I'm not feeling my best today." You could also say, "My back has been acting up lately," to describe a recurring pain. Let's discuss hobbies and free time using more advanced verbs. Instead of "I like playing football," you could say, "I'm a keen football player." Or, "I have a passion for painting." Other phrases include, "I enjoy unwinding with good book," or "I'm an avid traveler." You could also say, "I've recently taken up woodworking," to describe a new hobby. Or, "I'm an enthusiast of vintage cars." When talking about a hobby you do with others, you could say, "We get together every Tuesday for a game of poker." These expressions show a high level of interest and make your language more dynamic. We also need to refine our daily expressions to sound more native. Instead of "no problem," you can say "no worries" or "don't give it a second thought." Instead of "that's great," you could say "that's fantastic" or "that's brilliant." Instead of "see you later," try "take care" or "catch you later." Other informal but useful expressions include, "It's a piece of cake for something easy," or "I'm all ears when you are ready to listen." You can also add more context like, "Thanks for the help, I really appreciate it." Or, "That's a fantastic idea, we should definitely explore it." Let's practice advanced phrases for travel. Instead of asking, "How much is a ticket?" you can ask, "What's the fare to the city center?" Or, "Is it possible to purchase a ticket on board?" In a taxi, instead of "Take me to this address," what you might say, "Could you please take me to this address?" Or, "I need to be at this location as soon as possible." At the airport, you could say, "Where is the check-in counter for flight 327?" Or, "I seem to have misplaced my boarding pass." When confirming a flight, you could say, "I'd like to confirm the departure time for my flight to Paris." At a restaurant, you'll need more sophisticated phrases. Instead of "I'd like a sandwich," you might say, "I'm in the mood for something light." "What do you recommend?" Or, "I'll go with the grilled fish." Instead of "Could I get the bill, please?" you could say, "Could we get the check, please?" Or, "Could you please bring us the bill when you have a moment?" If there's an issue, you could say, "Excuse me, but this isn't what I ordered." Or, "This steak seems a bit undercooked." If you have dietary restrictions, you could say, I have an allergy to nuts. Could you ensure there are none in this dish? These are practical phrases for eating out. Expressing opinions is a key part of fluent conversation. Instead of, I think this movie is great, you could say, in my humble opinion, this film is a masterpiece. Or, I'm of the mind that this strategy is too risky. When disagreeing, be polite but firm. I see your point, but I'm afraid I have to disagree. Or, that's a valid perspective, but I'm not entirely convinced. For a more balanced opinion, you might say, while I appreciate the intention, I have some reservations about the overall plan. This shows you can hold your own in a debate. Now let's talk about describing people and things with more detailed adjectives. Instead of he is tall and friendly, you could say he has a towering presence and a very affable personality. Instead of the phone is new and expensive, you might say this cutting-edge phone comes with a hefty price tag. Using words like towering, affable, cutting-edge, and hefty adds a lot more dimension to your language. For a person's character, you could say, she is a very conscientious employee, always going the extra mile, or he has a very laid-back, easygoing attitude. When shopping, move past simple questions. Instead of, how much is this? You can say, what's the price of this item? Or, what's the damage? In an informal context. When leaving, say, I'm just browse, thank you. Or, I'll take this, thank you. For a return, you might say, I'd like to return this item. I have the receipt here. Or, I'm afraid this item is faulty. Could I get a refund? If you need to know about a warranty, you could ask, what is the warranty period for this appliance? These small details make you sound more experienced and confident. Using English on the phone requires clarity and specific language. Instead of just, hello, this is Elena speaking, you might say, hello, you've reached Elena. To ask for someone, say, may I speak with Sarah, please? If they're not there, they might say, I'm sorry, she's currently away from her desk. Can I take a message? You could reply, yes, could you please let her know that Elena called and ask her to call me back at her earliest convenience? This is a very professional and clear way to handle a message. When leaving a message, you could say, could you please pass a message along to him? Let's also talk about giving and receiving compliments. To give a compliment, you can say, that's a fantastic idea. Or, you have a remarkable way with words. You could also say, I'm so impressed with your attention to detail. To receive a compliment, say, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say. Or, I appreciate that. It means a lot. A more modest reply could be, oh, it was nothing, but thank you. At work, use professional language. Instead of, I have a question, you could say, could I ask a quick question about the project? Or, I'll have that report ready by the end of the day. In meetings, use phrases like, I'd like to weigh in on this. Or, I'd like to circle back to this point later. When presenting an idea, you might say, I propose we adopt a new strategy. Or, my suggestion is that we. When concluding a meeting, you could say, thank you all for your contributions. Let's reconvene next week to review the progress. Finally, let's consider using more advanced language for transportation. Instead of, "Where is the bus stop?" you might ask, "Where's the nearest bus stop located?" In a taxi, instead of, "How long will it take?" you could ask, "What's the estimated time of arrival?" For a train journey, you could ask, "Is this train on schedule?" Or, "Are there any delays expected?" If you're on public transport, you could ask, "Does this bus stop at the city hall?" These questions are crucial for smooth travel. And that brings us to the end of our session. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We moved beyond the simple phrases and began exploring the rich details that make conversations truly engaging. From articulating your thoughts in a more sophisticated way to navigating nuanced social situations and handling professional requests with greater confidence. But remember, the goal isn't just to memorize these advanced phrases. It's to integrate them into your own voice. It's about finding the words that allow you to express your unique perspective with precision and grace. Learning a language is a journey, and every step you take, no matter how small, is a victory. The real magic happens when you start to feel that confidence building, when you no longer hesitate and your words flow naturally. That feeling of connecting with someone on a deeper level, of sharing your story and your thoughts without holding back. That's what this is all about. So keep practicing, keep pushing your boundaries, and know that you are not just learning English, you are building a bridge to new connections and new opportunities. If you found this immersive experience helpful and inspiring, and you want to continue this journey with us, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing to English in Moments, you'll ensure you never miss a lesson designed to help you become the fluent and confident speaker you aspire to be. We're a community of dedicated learners, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. I hope this session has been a powerful step forward for you. I'm Elena, and I'll see you next time on English in Moments.